Hi everyone, this is Shanea O'Connor from TrueBloodFansource.com. Um, I'm here to discuss the ninth episode of this season, of season 5. Everyone Wants to Rule the World. It was quite an episode, and it opened with full frontal nudity, which when my friends said to me last night that she was disappointed that I didn't mention it. It's actually not the first time that we've seen full frontal. I think the first time we've ever seen it was when Lilith emerged out of the blood drop. But yeah, it opened with the vampires all standing over the conference table, and there's the naked man there, and he's going to be fed on. So, yeah, that was an interesting way to open it. But I myself, it's gotten to the point where I watch True Blood so much and I'm immersed in it so much, between the actors and covering the show, that I was saying to said friend that I'm pretty much unfazed by it at this point because I've seen so much crazy stuff happen. But yeah, they're feeding on humans, and Eric obviously doesn't want anything to do with it, but he kind of has to go along with it because, it's part of their survival. So continuing along that line with the Authority, we see that Eric is trying to hatch a plan to escape. He's getting help from Molly. He's played by Tina Margarino from Big Love and Napoleon Dynamite. And that was quite an interesting exchange between them when she goes in to the room after she realizes that she can't get out. And, she's got her fangs out, and Eric's like, put the baby fangs away before you piss me off, because I'm 1,000 years older than you are. So that was kind of humorous, but no, and to see him sort of say, I don't speak tech, translate, was also really amusing, because it shows, even though he's all suave and cool, that he's still, a Viking, which is something that comes up later when he sees Nora. But yeah, the fact that they're hatching this plan, trying to get out, and he's trying to get Nora out and trying to get Bill out, and he talks to Bill later. I mean, just him trying so hard, because I think that I agree with Lucy Griffiths, who in the HBO Go commentary said that she's trying to convince Nora is trying to convince Eric to believe in this, and Eric, I think, he wants to believe, judging from what he says to Nora. I don't think that's totally a lie. I think he'd love to be able to give up that and just believe, but he can't, because this goes against everything that he knows is right. Like I said in an earlier video, he might be an asshole, but he's got, his own set of morals, and that's one thing that you just don't do. You don't just go killing every human being when they haven't done anything to you. That's not exactly the right thing to do. And seeing all the True Blood factories and everything blown up, I mean, that only strengthens his resolve, because Bill came up with the idea and they fucking went through with it. So, he wants to get out of there for everybody's sake. Take Nora, take Bill, and get the hell out of Dodge. And I think he should. Because at this point, I mean, Salome is starting to scare me a lot. She reminds me of when she was dancing behind the curtain in the later scene towards the end with Bill. She reminded me a lot of a Black Widow who was going in for the kill. I mean, she's so power hungry, and I thought to myself as I watched, it's amazing how she spent all those years with Roman, and now all of a sudden she's attached to Bill and saying, that he's the one and all this stuff. And she kind of said the same sort of things to Roman. And it's just like, oh my God, this woman is just, insane. And she's got all of these vampires behind her. I mean, Russell's a different story because, it's obvious that he's just playing along like Eric. But, she's got all kinds of vampires behind her and is causing all kinds of chaos that isn't just contained to the Authority, but it's going everywhere. I mean, we see it later in Fantasia when Pam confronts the, quote, new sheriff of Area 5 when he starts feeding on someone who's sitting in Eric's throne while doing it. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And I mean, Pam, she's barely keeping it together. She does miss Eric, and I'm like, oh, it's just somebody reunite Pam and Eric already, please. Because it's just sad. They miss each other, but, she's keeping it together as best she can and serving the True Blood, even though there's a shortage because all the factories are gone. And still trying to keep Tara in line. I love that line she had, just because we drank a bitch together doesn't make us Oprah and Gail. I mean, that's just so Pam. And I also love how she said that she avoids humans that eat too much fish and politics. And she's gonna leave. That's one of the things that Pam says in the previews for next week's episode, is that she's gonna be in the wind. Her and Tara, just like her and Eric were before. They're just gonna leave. Of course they're not, but not really, because if they leave, well, unless the show follows them. But yeah, she wants to leave because she tries to stop that sheriff, and like she gets shoved again for like the third time this season or something like that. Someone gets physically violent with her. So she sees obviously that this is serious business, and she might not be able to stay, not without Eric, because she's vulnerable. And she's got to protect Tara, because Tara's the younger vampire. So the whole thing with the vampires is just very intense, and it's getting really interesting. And I love how, and I saw this last year, I noticed this last year during season 4. To this episode, they wrapped up the smaller storylines, like Terry and Patrick. Terry killed Patrick finally, and the Ifrit took Patrick away because the blood debt was paid, so Terry is no longer cursed. So that storyline is sort of wrapped up, and then the other storyline that got wrapped is the whole Obama mask hate group and the shooters, and we find out that Bud Dearborn was behind it, and Sweetie Desart, who we meet actually in this book, was also involved, and so we kind of find this out rather quickly. And that storyline wraps up. I mean, it's not totally wrapped up because they still have to deal with the whole issue of Suki's parents, but that whole little storyline got wrapped, which I kind of have to laugh at, because I think that, they're focusing more on the Authority, and that's one of the things that drove me crazy, and drives me crazy every season, just because there are so many people in this cast that not everything gets followed through on quick enough with the stories. I mean, some of them seem to drag out forever, and then all of a sudden they get wrapped up in like the course of one episode. So I'm glad that the Ifrit storyline got wrapped, and then the Shifter storyline, because I love all the actors. They all deserve storylines, but I think in this case, it'll just be easier to focus on one or two storylines, because with the authority and everything like that, it's just getting to be very ridiculous. But I am looking forward to the next couple of episodes because it's getting pretty dire. But yeah, watching Terry finally shoot Patrick, I mean, that took a lot of guts for Terry, and it'll be interesting to see what that does to him later on. But like I said before, I knew Patrick was going to die because the actor has a pilot, and I thought that, that was appropriate. And I'm glad that they wrapped that up. With the shifter shooting and everything, I was really surprised that Bud was the one. I mean, that was one of the stories that I think I was surprised with because post all the spoilers and everything, I usually remember as I watch, about all the things that I've posted. I knew about the full frontal nudity at the beginning of the episode because I remember writing something about it. So there's not a lot that surprises me, but that was one of them. It's just that, Bud was involved with Sweetie, and then Bud got shot. He's dead. Andy shot him, which was a big thing for Andy because he spends the episode saying that he's a shitty sheriff, but he's not. I mean, he did something that was really difficult, and he did it, and, that speaks volumes for Andy. So that was interesting, but yeah. I'm looking forward to the story, the end of the season, I think. I want to see the authority resolved, and I hope that they get what's coming to them. I really hope again that Nora doesn't die, because that scene between her and Eric in the little vestibule where they keep Lilith's blood, that was a really touching scene to me because it reminded me a lot of the scene that Eric has with Pam in 504 before he leaves. It's just so heartbreaking because he loves her so much and he wants to save her. But like Bill, he doesn't know if he really can. He's trying, but now we saw at the end that he gets captured. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. But it's just so sad. Also sad is the whole thing with Alcide. He loses the Packmaster race, and so he goes to see his dad, and he's reflecting on when his dad, because his dad was Packmaster, when his dad inducted him and Debbie and some of his other friends into the pack. It makes him sad, and it was actually really sad to see that flashback with Alcide and Debbie, because you see them as kids, and to know what's coming for them later is just heartbreaking. Also heartbreaking to me was when Russell and Steve went to the barn where all the werewolves are, and Russell's all feeding his blood, and then he takes Emma. To see Martha's reaction to that was also heartbreaking, because you can see that, she means a lot to her. But I have to say, Russell Edgington, I'd be really afraid of Luda. I know you're 3,000 years old and everything, but she really kicked some ass when she caught up with Sweetie. I was like, oh, shizzle. She's not somebody who I would want to piss off. Not in the least. And Sam also did a great job with the fighting sequence. I thought it's not easy to do that kind of a fight, but to have to do it naked is even harder. So props to both of those actors for doing that. But yeah, this episode, it fit, thematically speaking, I mean, it really fit quite well, because you saw various characters trying to take over their aspect of the world, in some way, shape, or form, or have their worlds taken over, like in the case of Fantasia. Suki had her world sort of taken over by the Obamas for a minute, and I thought it was a well-written episode, but I'm really kind of concerned. It's hard for me because I think I love the show, like I've said, and I love the cast and the crew, but sometimes it can go a little bit overboard, and I thought that, between the whole Obama shapeshifter hater group thing and the authority, it was getting to be a little bit too much, but thankfully, since that's wrapped up, the shifter thing, we won't necessarily have to worry about it. Now Sam and Luna have to worry about Emma because they're going to come back and find that she's gone. She's been kidnapped. So that'll give them something to do, but it'll the next 3 episodes should be very more focused than the last several. So yeah, it should be good, but I'm sort of also wondering, what's going to happen with Bill. Obviously, he's turning to religion, but he betrayed Eric, and I know they hate each other, but I mean, seriously, doesn't Bill care that, he's going against everything, especially everything he told his progeny? That's difficult. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And I think that's all I have for now. Make sure to check out truebloodfansource.com for all of the latest episode trailers and inside the episode and recaps. There are 2 trailers for next week's episode and the last 3 episodes that are posted, so you can view those now. And I will be posting spoilers if I can find them. Anything else, we're trying to keep up good momentum because we only have 3 weeks left, which is kind of amazing. But we here at True Blood Fan Source don't really slow down even after the season's over. So don't worry. We will keep you abreast as the season comes to a close, and we will be your True Blood fix all year round. As we wait in anticipation for season 6. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.